As pet parents, we are always on the hunt for the best possible kibble for our pets. But there is always a gap, a marketing gap, between what you think you are feeding your dog and the actual best food you can provide your dog with. And in order to reveal the truth about the pet food industry, we are going to delve deep into this topic, and we have come up with 7 of the most overrated pet foods that you can give your dog. Now we are going to start by setting out the grounds, and by setting out one very simple criteria that I want you to come on board with me on. And this is that meat costs more money than carbohydrates. You see, whenever you go to a restaurant or to your local supermarket, what costs more? A kilo of chicken or a kilo of rice? A pound of beef or a pound of bread? What costs more? Lamb or brown rice? The very simple premise is this: when it comes to our dogs, we want to be paying for meat. We want our dollars to go into meat sources. So without further ado, we are going to look into these 7 dog foods. The first one is this one, is Dr. Tim's. And it's the highly athletic momentum formula, and it's a dry dog food. It's a kibble, and you get 40 pounds in the bag, and this will set you back $132. And the ingredients are extremely vague. As you can see, we have chicken meal. We always like to see chicken or a protein source at the beginning of the recipe, but then things go downhill quite quickly. We see brown rice, which expands when you cook it. We have chicken fat, which is preserved, and we then have ocean herring meal, which is good. Dried plain beet pulp with the sugar removed, so they are adding an extra step. Dried egg product, not of whole egg, dried chicken liver meal, and ground whole flaxseed meal, which in reality are not terrible ingredients. However, the second ingredient in this recipe is brown rice. Now, in order for us to come up with a very good dog food, we have to be paying for meat. We want our money to go into meat. And at the moment, the second ingredient here is brown rice. We don't really know how much of this recipe is brown rice because they don't tell us the percentages. But nevertheless, at $132, it's quite expensive if you ask me. Remember that no manufacturer is going to put brown rice as the second ingredient, and for that ingredient to be very, very small. It will be a high amount of the recipe. The second one is this Layfiber Emirates Sustain HDN Senior Dog Food, but I would bet everything I've got that the other recipes are very similar in terms of ingredients, and this will set you back $200 per bag of food, and it's pretty pricey. Now, the first ingredient is cooked chicken, which again is good. We like meat sources in our dog food, but then we have cornstarch, hydrolyzed soy protein, dehydrated casein, ground corn, glucose syrup solids, dehydrated whole chicken egg, dehydrated chicken liver, canola oil, and corn oil. So these foods straight away we can see is quite heavily reliant on corn, cornstarch, ground corn, and then we have corn oil. Now, corn is a processed ingredient. It's inflammatory for us humans, let alone dogs, and it is not the best ingredient to put in dog food. Let me tell you, in order for you to get a good food, we have to remove all these wheat, corn, barley, soy, and all these meat and animal derivatives of these foods. So ground corn is out, in my opinion. And whenever a dog food is $200, that dog food, the ingredients have to be really, really up there for you to part with your money. The third one is the Addiction Mega Complete, balanced, grain-free, medium to large breed adult. And again, most of these dog foods will be very, very similar when it comes to the different recipes. And this will set you back $135. Now, what can we see? We see the first two ingredients being pretty good: lamb and beef. We see lamb meal and beef meal. But then we get into the potatoes, peas and tapioca. Now, whenever manufacturers say that this recipe is grain-free, they will substitute a cheap filler for another cheap filler. They will substitute brown rice or barley for tapioca, chickpeas or potatoes, which again, what costs more, a kilo of lamb or a kilo of chickpeas? It will always be the lamb that costs more. So inherently, there is nothing wrong with these foods that add a little bit of filler. It is the price you pay that's disproportionate with the quality of the actual dog food. So buying these dog food for $135, we wouldn't want to see that many fillers, that many cheap fillers. We have potatoes, peas and tapioca. It's enough for me. The fourth one is the Hill Science Adult Sensitive Stomach and Sensitive Skin Chicken Recipe. And this, again, is a dry kibble. This will set you back $160, my friend. And we have chicken and chicken meal, which is great. We want to see chicken or any other animal protein as the first ingredients, but then things go quite south. We have yellow peas, which is inflammatory, cracked pearl barley, brown rice, brewer's rice, whole grain sorghum, egg product, chicken fat, soybean oil, etc., etc. The one thing I really don't like about these recipe, apart from all the fillers, is the chicken liver flavor. Not the actual liver, but the flavor. So it's adding an extra layer of complexity of manufacturing, of breaking down the actual recipe and the processing of the food, which is quite a nasty thing to do, really. We want to be feeding our dogs the most wholesome ingredients, not just flavorings of the actual ingredients. We want the actual ingredients, not the flavoring. Yellow peas, cracked pearl barley, brown rice and brewer's rice, those are all inflammatory and they will not be doing your dog any good. And at $160, this is a not for me. The fifth one is one of the OGs. This is the Royal Canin Vet Diet Adult Skin Support Dry Dog Food, and this is a veterinary prescription diet. This will set you back $174, and the ingredients could not be any worse. We see brewer's rice, inflammatory; fish meal, it's quite vague; brown rice, inflammatory. It expands when you cook it. Whenever you cook rice, it will expand. Chicken fat, natural flavors, okay? Powdered cellulose, vegetable oil, etc., etc. Now, the one thing we always tell people is if your dog has any sort of allergy, any sort of skin allergy or skin pruritus, any dermatitis, what the dog is being reactive to is one particular protein. So we want to do something called the elimination diet, where we just choose chicken or beef or lamb or just one single protein, and we see how the dog reacts to that particular protein. But whenever we feed the dog natural flavors, do we know which flavors are those? We don't. Why? Because they don't disclose it. It's a lot cheaper for manufacturers not to disclose the things they put in the food so they can get away with it. So brewer's rice, brown rice, natural flavors, this food is not suitable, and it's $174. This is a very expensive food. The sixth one is the Purina Pro Plan Vet Gastrointestinal Dry Dog Food, and this will set you back $130 of your finest dollars. Now, we have again to look at the ingredients, and the ingredients could not be any more inflammatory. We have brewer's rice, chicken meal, which is good, natural flavor. Again, we do not know where that natural flavor is coming from. All we know is that it is natural flavor, which is quite vague if you ask me. We then have cassava root flour, okay, potato protein, not an animal protein, but a potato protein, which is a lot cheaper than animal protein. And we then have animal fats, pea protein and coconut oil and other bits and bobs. Now again, if your dog is having a bout of gastrointestinal issues, we do not want to be feeding our dog animal fats or potato protein or natural flavors or brewer's rice. We want to be feeding our dog something that is not going to be inflammatory, something maybe high in omega-3s, which will be anti-inflammatory, and something that's quite specific, because if we get unspecific with that dog's food, we will not want what's triggering that allergy, that gastrointestinal issue, or that dog's condition. So we want to be as specific as possible. And the last one is Farmina Vet Life HP Derma, and this is again another dry dog food. This will set you back $125, and again we have very vague ingredients, yet another vet prescription diet with extremely vague ingredients. Rice starch, hydrolyzed fish, which is okay, herring oil, which is okay, powdered cellulose, which is just a filler, potassium chloride, etc. So the ingredients, the main ingredients are rice starch, which is a filler, it's inflammatory, hydrolyzed fish, and herring oil and powdered cellulose. Everything else is an additive. So we are looking at a very small amount of ingredients, which is good if we are trying to uncover what's going on with our dog's condition. But the first ingredient cannot be inflammatory and cannot be so vague as rice starch. Again, we want to be paying for meat. We do not want to be paying for all these cheap fillers and cheap carbohydrates. And so if your dog is suffering from allergies and if you want to learn more, I suggest you check this video next.